Oh, he talk as cheap as I.
Hey, I follow that group.
Yeah, same. Pretty good group.
Yeah, I think that they are very underrated and should be signed by Fox Sports, maybe eventually ESPN, to be
Yeah,
the
shit.
new.
I'd be down.
Let me pull up the questions.
Trust me, we'd probably be cheaper than most of the personalities y'all got signed. Trust me, I ain't greedy. I just need to be able to make ends meet.
I gotta find.
I'm gonna buy that KFC console, bro.
So am I.
That thing is dope. When you cook chicken while you're gaming, that's fucking sick. Oh, we have a viewer.
Hello, Jerry Boyer. I'm just trying to find the questions.
I got you.
Tag me in it. Perfect. All right.
I post too much shit.
No.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Talk is Cheap. I'm your host, Zach Cooper. This is my co-host, Brent Johansson. Tonight, we're going to be going over Week 17 and our picks for the week and any potential playoff questions you guys had or anything for Week 17. So, also, when we go through the picks, we'll probably kind of breeze through the games that don't mean much because
it's Week 17.
So it's
a
week
lot
17,
of teams really
yeah.
aren't playing for anything.
Cares. All right, so we'll get started on the questions. First question: with KC and Green Bay presumably getting the number one seeds, which one is most likely to get upset and by who? I think Green Bay. KC has been playing so many close games, but I'm gonna say it's Green Bay. I think Green Bay's more likely to be upset just because Kansas City is still whether they play close games or not, they are still 14-1, and we have seen games where Green Bay's been picked apart this year. I mean, I still think they're both the best teams right now in their conference. They've kind of proven that, but I just don't think that KC can be beat by too many teams in the AFC. I only give one or two teams a shot at beating them, and I really think that in the NFC that any team could upset Green Bay. I think Green Bay would be favored in all those games, but I do think there are more teams that could potentially go into Lambeau and beat Green Bay than Kansas City. So that and Green Bay doesn't have the best track record in the playoffs, especially if they get the bye. After they get a bye, they're not very good. I know they won last year, but they won very sloppy last year against Seattle. And other than that, they're used to getting upset by like the Giants or something like that coming off a bye. So just track record alone, too, I would have to say Green Bay's probably more likely. But both those teams are dangerous, and they both could go all the way. So it just depends on matchups.
Yeah. So first of all, I think that it's going to be Green Bay and Kansas City going against each other in the Super Bowl. But that's not the question. The question is who's going to, if I had to pick one to be upset, I would lean towards Green Bay, mostly because, like, when you look back, I know that the sample sizes are different compared to Mahomes and Rodgers, but even, like, looking back last year, Mahomes got down, and the Chiefs got down big in each of their playoff games last year and found ways to win.
What's up, Jerry?
Where the Packers, and more specifically Aaron Rodgers, if the Packers get down in games, they usually don't get out of that hole. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't really have the best track record when it comes to the playoffs. A lot of people have thrown around the words that he's really overrated in the playoffs, and when you look at the analytics behind it, you kind of have to agree. He's really good at beating up on those bad wild card teams, but then once he faces quality opponents in the divisional round and the championship game, he really struggles. So I don't necessarily think that might be the case this year, because those are my two picks to reach the Super Bowl. But if I had to pick one to be upset, I'd go Green Bay.
And if it was by who, if we had to pick, let's just answer this for both teams. If we had to pick a team that could beat both teams, who?
For Kansas City, I'm going to go Buffalo. I know that Kansas City handled Buffalo earlier this year, but that was a different Buffalo team than what we're seeing right now. And Josh Allen is very hot right now. And he's playing some of the best football in the league. Things could get really ugly in that game, and things could go the right way for Buffalo. When it comes to Green Bay, I know that basically any team is considered an upset over Green Bay as they're the number one seed right now. But when I think of the teams that could beat them, I think the Saints could obviously beat them. Tampa Bay has shown that they can beat them. Tampa Bay would be a good one because I don't really consider an upset being like New Orleans because New Orleans was right there with Green Bay, and they're still. Are they?
They can clinch the one.
But
they need
a lot of help.
Seattle needs to win. Green Bay's got to lose, and New Orleans got to win.
Yeah.
Three-way tie, New Orleans.
But I wouldn't really consider New Orleans an upset over Green Bay. That's just a pick 'em. But Tampa Bay would definitely be an upset because they'd have to go into Lambeau.
As a wild card.
Yeah. And so I'm going with Tampa Bay would be a one that could upset Green Bay, and Buffalo for who could upset Kansas City.
Yeah, I also am going to say, I'd say Buffalo. Buffalo's got the best shot for Kansas City to me. I actually think Buffalo's going to beat Kansas City. He said Kansas City, Green Bay in the Super Bowl. I don't have either one of those two teams in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Buffalo, New Orleans.
I do have Buffalo and New Orleans in the Super Bowl. That may change because Kamara's got COVID now.
Mm-hmm.
So if he can't play next week, that could be upset alert for the Saints. But if the Saints survive next week, I think they got the best shot to beat Green Bay other than Tampa. I think Tampa does, but Tampa being a wild card team, I think they would have to meet Green Bay most likely in the NFC Championship game unless something happens because they're 2 wild cards lower than them. So the chances of Green Bay playing somebody different would be in the divisional round.
Yeah.
So it just depends on where the matchups are, but I would say New Orleans got a better chance. But I think Tampa can beat Green Bay. Those type of matchups are where Green Bay struggles a lot when they get overpowered in the front. And now they don't have Bakhtiari, which is huge. So I would pick Tampa over Green Bay if they played.
I still would anyway because look what they did last time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They murdered them already. It's just a bad matchup. Teams have those. Nothing against Green Bay. I do think Green Bay would be favored in every matchup they play, but those are just the teams that I think would be the best suit to beat them. Who's our sleeper picks for the playoffs? I'll do one for the AFC, and then I'll let you do one for the NFC. We don't want to stick on the same question forever.
All right.
I think for the AFC, my sleeper pick is going to be the Cleveland Browns. I think that they can beat anybody outside of Kansas City by the way that they play football, ground and pound. The only reason I don't think they can beat Kansas City is because they run so much, and Kansas City would go up pretty big on them with the pass with their weak secondary. So if they could manage to somehow avoid Kansas City, if Kansas City got upset, I think Cleveland could make a run to the Super Bowl. So I got Cleveland there.
Yeah, the NFC is hard because I don't know. It's all teams are capable of beating.
Yeah, it's hard for sleeper in the playoffs because all these teams are, except for the NFC East winner.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going with whoever wins that one. But based off how they were, I don't know. I'm looking at what we got here, and it's so tough because I don't know what's going to shape out tomorrow. That's going to change everything. But I'm going with Arizona. Arizona has been a hot and cold team, but when they're hot, they are red hot. And that team can go against just about anyone. Really depends on what happens tomorrow, though. But Arizona could really shake things up. Kyler Murray is very hard to stop. Okay, next question. What team drafting in the top 5 is in the worst spot as a team, not counting the Texans because Miami owns their pick? I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to be picking number 1 overall. And I know that's the easy pick, but really when you look at that team, they it looks like they got their new head coach in Urban Meyer. It's not official yet, but it looks pretty. It looks
unofficially official.
Yeah. But you have to assume that they're going to go Trevor Lawrence with that pick. Outside of Trevor Lawrence and James Robinson, I know you have Chark there, and he was pretty good with Minshew. It'll be interesting to see what that chemistry will be like with Trevor Lawrence. But outside of that defense is horrendous. The rest of that offense is horrendous. That team is that's the definition of a dumpster fire. I think that is the worst talented team in the NFL. Urban Meyer's going to have a lot of work to do to try to fix that team. And it might be 3 years in before he actually starts to put the right pieces together. And Trevor Lawrence is really going to struggle there in Jacksonville. I'm
going to go with the Jets for this reason. because the Jags are going to get their QB, and the only way that the Jets are going to get their QB is if Urban Meyer wants to take Justin Fields. So without having a QB that you guys trust in, I feel like that you're going to be in worse shape than Jacksonville. Because there are rumors swirling they're not going to take a QB if they don't get Trevor Lawrence. So that's a mistake for me. I know I'm not a big Fields believer, but if you don't believe in Darnold like the Jets don't believe in Darnold, I personally don't believe that. I think it was more Gase than anything. But the Jets do not believe in Darnold. So if you don't believe in your QB, then you need to go draft your QB that you feel like you can push forward with. Or even maybe they make this. I can't assume this because we don't have the information. But they could always maybe trade up or trade back even and get more stuff to get like a Trey Lance if you don't like Fields or something like that, or a Zach Wilson. But you have to get a QB. I don't see how the Jets are what the Sewell guy or something like that is who they're being mocked to draft now. And it's like, that would be such a Jets thing to do though. But so, I mean, that's the reason why I think the Jets are worse. I think the Jacksonville is currently a worse talented team on roster, but if they're going to get their almost guaranteed to be a stud QB in the draft versus not knowing what the hell you're going to roll with at quarterback. So I got the Jets, but, I mean, neither team's sitting good, so can't really do much with that. Was this win against the Titans the most impressive game the Packers have played all season? If so, does that performance make you think they can realistically win it all this season? Most impressive for the season? I don't know, because they beat New Orleans, right? And New Orleans is a really damn good team, so maybe the way they beat them, but then again, Tennessee doesn't play out in the snow a lot, so it's also just, it's hard to evaluate because of weather conditions. But I would say, yeah, it was pretty impressive. I don't think anybody expected them to hammer them the way they did, or to hold Derrick Henry the way that they did, because I definitely thought Derrick Henry was going to run all over them. And they kind of held him in check, and no teams don't do that much, really. So I would slightly say yes, just because of the way that they beat them. But they did beat New Orleans, and New Orleans is a better team, so it's kind of iffy for me. But definitely one of the top two performances, I would think, for the Packers this year.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Coop. Those two are like 1A and 1B for me. But just the pure dominance that we saw from the Packers, that game wasn't even close at any point of it. Maybe at the opening kickoff was about as close as that game got. And it was really surprising to me because I didn't want to touch this game on anything. I didn't want to, because I knew that the Titans are that kind of team that can just show up and punch you right in the mouth. Or they can go out there and just look like dog shit. And they didn't look that great when they played the Packers, and that was really surprising because the Titans match up really well with what Green Bay does on defense. So you would have thought that Derrick Henry was just going to run for $150, 200 yards on that, and he was going to keep him in the game, but he was never able to get going, and Green Bay really just handled it. Do I think that game was telling that they're going to win the whole thing? It's too tough to tell. I've seen a lot of Packers fans kind of crown themselves Super Bowl champions already, not realizing that their quarterback doesn't know how to play in the playoffs. So I'd pump the brakes a little bit on do I think they're going to win all the way yet, even though they are currently my favorite to go to the Super Bowl. There's just a lot of teams in the NFC that are very capable of punching them right in the mouth back. And I guess we'll see what happens when the playoffs actually start. Sean, get out of here, man. Go. What team in the AFC and NFC are the hottest teams entering the playoffs, a.k.a. the teams that everyone wants to avoid playing? For the AFC, it's the Buffalo Bills. Nobody is wanting to play them right now. That team, they look dangerous. That defense looks unstoppable.
Yeah, they've really improved because that defense wasn't very good at the beginning of the year.
And Josh Allen is playing like a man playing against boys out there. For the NFC, the hottest, you have to go with Green Bay because Green Bay isn't losing games. And I can't think of any team in the NFC is like, you know what, I want to go to Lambeau right now. Give me Aaron Rodgers and Lambeau in the snow. That's what I want to do. No one's saying that. So I'm going with Buffalo and Green Bay as the two hottest teams right now.
I know this is boring, but I have the exact same two picks. I just can't. Without sounding like an idiot, I can't pick anybody different. Like, the only person I could say is maybe Kansas City, but I'm telling you right now, based on strength of schedule and the way that Buffalo has been beating the shit out of these teams, Buffalo is by far the hotter team. I know Kansas City's got a longer win streak again, but Kansas City's winning games by 2, 3, 4. Young Hoku misses field goal, whatever. Buffalo's beating the shit out of these teams with a tougher schedule. Buffalo's opponent's record is 104 and 101, and that's by far the toughest out of any playoff team. And they're still going in there and beating the shit out of these teams, right? And that's why Buffalo is not to be slept on. I don't care if Kansas City beat Buffalo earlier this year. Don't sleep on them. Not saying they will beat Kansas City, guaranteed, but do not sleep on them.
It's a totally different team.
Way different team now. Defense is playing better. Josh Allen's playing better. Diggs is playing lights out. I mean, you don't want to play them right now. You do not want to play Buffalo right now, especially in Buffalo in the cold. So thankfully for Kansas City, they wouldn't have to worry about that, but everybody else that would. So
I think Diggs actually entered the conversation to be best wide receiver in the NFL after this year. He has been he's phenomenal. He's
got to be in there. I wouldn't necessarily put him number one, but I wouldn't be opposed to putting him in the conversation to be talked about.
Yeah, because
he's an elite wide receiver. I tried telling people that when he was in Minnesota, but it was just Thielen. That's what they said. But
who's he got? Who's he got on the other side now? Cole Beasley.
Yeah, right. And then it's got to be Green Bay. I mean, all the NFC teams who kind of hit like little slumps and stuff in the season, Green Bay's never hit that, right? The only team that's come close to not hitting that is New Orleans, because they only hit it when they had Taysom Hill, and that's not the same team as when they had Breeze. But Green Bay's literally the only team that hasn't hit a slump. They lost a game to Tampa really bad, and then never slowed down after that. They picked right back up and continued to be what Green Bay was. And Green Bay just doesn't lose very often in Lambeau. And knowing that they're going to be, as long as they take care of business in Chicago, they're going to be the number one seed, and you're going to have to go into Green Bay in the winter in the snowy conditions and play them. And even Tampa, who beat them already this year, does not want to go into Green Bay in the snow and play Aaron Rodgers.
They did in Florida last time.
Yeah, last time it was in the heat. Green Bay's not used to heat, so it's just completely different game this time around. So. I'm going to try to decipher what Craig means by this because this is the worst English. Yes. Did the Browns get reffed last week? No. I'm going to tell you why. I would say I understand why you're frustrated, but it is a fumble. Okay, it's not the same as a lateral because it's a referee's discretion call, and I'm very vocal about being against a lot of these type of calls. Right? You need to find a rule that you can guarantee that that's the call. But I think that it's just too hard with that kind of play. I don't know how you would be able to prove that it's not a lateral or a fumble, so it's got to be a referee's discretion. And it's clear that it wasn't a lateral. He got hit. Baker got hit. The ball popped out. It sucks. I don't like the rule that that a different player can't pick it up. That rule's stupid.
I get why they do it, though.
If it goes backwards, I can understand why if the ball goes forward, you can't pick it up and continue to run. But if it's backwards, like it was in this game, I don't feel like any player shouldn't be. It's just like a lateral then at that point. So that's why I understand why Craig is upset. But at the same time, the Browns should have just took care of business already. Let's be real.
It was the Jets.
It was the Jets. I know you had no wide receivers, but the fact you guys didn't pound, I don't care that it wasn't working. I understand that they knew you had no wide receivers. They played 8 in the box. They shut Chubb down, but you got to keep going to him. Why? Because he's one of the best running backs in the game, and eventually he's going to wear the defense out, but they didn't do that. That was Stefanski's first badly coached game I've seen all year. And he's a rookie coach. It'll come, but you can't be mad at how the game ended because you should have never been in a game against the Jets. I would get it if you were against Pittsburgh or something like that, where you're like, well, we're not going to blow out Pittsburgh, so of course it's going to come down to the end, right? But you should have been blowing out the Jets.
The Jets.
Come on, man.
I don't have anything to add to that. He handled it completely. I do think it sucks. That's why I said a little bit. It does suck. But, the rule is there. It sucks that the way that the refs don't they don't fairly call it the same way for every team.
Yeah,
That's why I would say that, yeah, they got ref, but at the same time, it is a rule. And they had no reason to have that be the deciding factor of the game. It was the Jets.
Like I said, I do feel bad, and I understand why you're upset. If it was the Vikings in the same situation, I'd have been pissed. I get it, but I'm just, as a person that's not mad and can see open-eyed about what happened, it is the rule. It was called based in the book correctly.
Yep.
So maybe you should have just scored more points against the Jets.
Who brings in and takes a flyer on Dwayne Haskins, whether it's this season to stash on the roster or when free agency comes around? I think Carolina could take a realistic look at him. No, Teddy threw a lot of yards this year, but he has less touchdowns than Devontae Adams does. And that's an amazing stat. But I think that it wouldn't be a threat to Teddy's job. I think it'd be more of just like
Backup, I think.
like some locker room presence, even though he's not the best. Maybe Teddy could, like a reverse one, like Teddy's a stand-up guy. Maybe you can get Dwayne Haskins some positive influence because there's a reason why he was taken so early in the draft. And the guy has skill. He just lacks the discipline. He lacks the willpower to go out and win. He's got to get the right. He's got the right intangibles, but what he doesn't have is the stuff in here.
And he doesn't seem like he gives two shits about learning and being better about football. I'll say that 100%. He doesn't seem like he gives a shit.
So maybe it's because he was playing on a team that doesn't even have a name, or he was in part of a new regime came in and they obviously didn't want him. So he was like, why the hell am I going to try for a team that doesn't even want me to be here? So that could have played a lot of factors into it. But, I don't know, maybe Matt Rule could kind of right the ship a little bit and, get him going down the right path. But I think Carolina would be a good option there.
Carolina was my number one just because I already read stuff about them being interested. But I would say maybe the Patriots could try to take a chance. That's the type of player that Bill Belichick likes to bring in and try to fix. I don't think Haskins is good, so I'm going to tell you that I don't think it's a good move, but I could see them trying
Can't
it.
be worse than Cam.
It's not going to be worse than Cam. I can promise you that. You do not have a worse season than Cam Newton is as a starting QB. The fact that Bill Belichick didn't want to look like an idiot is the only reason he never got benched. I'm just saying that.
Like 5 times.
Well, I meant actually benched for good.
And I know that Cam's numbers are a little flawed because, I get Patriots fans to say, well, he did have all these rushing touchdowns, and that was the scheme of what the Patriots were doing. But you can't be a starting quarterback in the NFL and have single-digit touchdowns on the year. When Josh Allen has thrown more touchdowns in one game in your home stadium than you've thrown all season, there's a problem there. And I get that it's a total scheme thing. They get all the way down the field and then Cam runs it in. I totally get that. But that's Cam being an athlete, not Cam being a quarterback. There's been multiple times where Cam has single-handedly lost those games by throwing just lame duck balls, by throwing balls that are just no one's catching them except the defender.
Or trying to run when he shouldn't run, a.k.a. the first Buffalo game they played.
No.
Clock's running down. Why are you running the ball there?
Yeah.
Throw the ball.
Right.
He doesn't want to do that.
But we're sidebarring. But anyway, Dwayne Haskins, he could go a couple different places.
Yeah, Cardinals in or out? I say Cardinals are in. They need a Chicago loss and a win. Chicago never beats Green Bay in recent history, so they're not going to beat Green Bay. Green Bay's not resting their starters because they gotta play for the number one. And Arizona's playing a Jared Goff-less Rams team.
The Blake Bortles experiment.
Yikes. So Kyler's playing, Hopkins is playing, Fitz is playing. Those are the three guys that were all questionable. They're all playing. There's no reason to pick against the Cards in this game. I got the Cardinals in.
Yeah, I have the Cardinals in as well. I know that Trubisky's really turned things around in Chicago in limited playing experience with
playing against 4 of the worst, 7 worst defenses.
Some of the worst teams defensively, but he's not going to replicate that against Green Bay. Chicago's playoff hopes die tomorrow, and with that, breathes life into Arizona because I don't think Blake Bortles is going to go out there and be the 2017 Blake Bortles.
It's crazy is the order they put these games in. They should have put the Green Bay. Oh no, they are at 4, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they switched it because on the schedule I looked at first it was 1. They must have flexed it down. I remember seeing it at 4.
So,
no, never mind.
I have Arizona in as well. Thought on NFC least team chances of getting the playoffs. For me, I have the Washington football team getting in because they have the easiest route to get in. If they win, they're in. And they are facing a Philadelphia team that's already out of playoff contention. They could potentially get a win there. When it comes to the Giants and the Cowboys, they not only would have to win their respective game, but they'd need the Eagles to play upset to get in. So I have the easy route being the Washington football team just wins and they're in. What about you, Coop?
I read this question a little different. I thought he meant what were their chances in the playoffs?
Oh, one and done. I thought you were asking who you thought they were or who was
But
getting
I'll
in.
answer them both. One and done. That's not even discussable. And the second one, I actually have Dallas getting in. I do think it's easier for Washington, but I think that Philadelphia is going to love to play spoiler tomorrow night. And I know Hurts had a few turnovers last week, but as a whole, they kind of look way more re-energized with Hurts. So I actually am picking Philly in that game tomorrow, which I'll get to later. And then the Giants they can't score. So Dallas has been hotter. So I actually have Dallas getting in, but it doesn't matter who gets in because they're just getting knocked out by Tampa. Most likely Tampa, unless Atlanta can pull an upset, but most likely Tampa in the first game. So
if Atlanta pulls the upset, who gets in?
Tampa will still be in, but they'll fall to 6 seed.
I was gonna say Tampa's already clinched.
Well, they can fall to the 6 seed as long as the other team wins.
Right.
I think the 6 seed's the Rams. Then the Rams could lose too. So there's a lot of variables, I guess.
Right.
But most likely Tampa Bay is what I'm trying to say. But yeah. So will the Jets stick with Darnold and go for Fields or Wilson? I just answered this earlier. I think it's going to be neither, which is a giant mistake, and this is why the Jets are going to continue to suck. So,
it honestly depends on what happens with the head coach. If they get a defensive-minded head coach, I can see them maybe sticking around with Darnold. Because Darnold's still young. He's shown a lot of promise in the league in his limited time. I know he's been out quite a bit, but I think Gase was what was the problem in that system. I don't think it was Darnold. I saw Darnold make plays that were upper echelon quarterback plays. So I think that they'd stick with him. But if it's a new offensive guy, he's probably going to want to get his own little marriage going. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But right now I have Darnold staying with New York.
It's funny you brought up coach.
Yeah. So who is the new coach of the Jets? I personally think that they need to go a defensive route there. I don't think they have the problems on offense. I think their problems are on defense. And with that being said, I think that is it Saleh?
Robert Saleh.
Is it
Salah?
Salah?
Something like
I'm
that.
gonna say Salah. He looks like,
whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Salah. I think he's a match made in heaven there. I think he would bring a lot of discipline to that team that really lacked discipline, and I think he could really turn around a troublesome Jets team and make them not necessarily a contender, but at least a team that you got to worry about losing if you're not the Browns. I have Salah going there, and he'll keep Darnold.
Okay, so I'm going to agree with Brent and disagree with Brent at the same time. I'm 100% going to agree with Brent. Their problems are on defense. And, they have problems on both sides of the ball, to be honest with you, but way more on defense. They can't stop anybody. Jets fans are going to be very familiar with the guy that I'm going to say they should go and get. He's an analyst now on ESPN. Rex Ryan. Time to reunite with the Jets. I do think he would come back.
Even after that tattoo thing, you think he'd come back?
He would come back. I think he would come back. I absolutely think he still has a love for that organization. And he's too competitive to turn it down. He just is a guy who wants to win. And I know he loves to beat the Patriots, so he gets to go somewhere where you get to play the Patriots who aren't good anymore, which he could take advantage of that too. Twice a year.
I think after he publicly got his Jets tattoo turned into a Bills tattoo, then he'd be welcome back in New York.
I've seen crazier shit. I'm not saying it will happen. This is what I say I think should happen.
That would be a wild ride.
You want to fix your defense? He's the guy that can do it because out of the two Ryan brothers, he's the one that actually is smart. Okay, the other guy's an idiot, and he's been coaching bad defenses for ever. Rex Ryan could be the guy. For a more realistic hire, I would agree with Saleh, but I do think that Detroit's going to wind up hiring Saleh. So that's the only problem with that, even though I want Bieniemy in Detroit. But
I think the Detroit's going to make a massive mistake if they take a defensive-minded coach again.
I agree with you. Nobody else agrees, though. We talk to the Lions fans all the time
That's
about this.
because the Lions fans are like, oh, Salah is a Michigan guy. I want our Michigan guy.
And also, the people
where you're from doesn't make you a quality head coach candidate.
And the Lions fans laughing at the fact that there's a rumor about Harbaugh getting a massive contract offer.
It's not like Harbaugh wasn't one of the most successful NFL coaches in the NFL, like at the NFL level.
People want to take the fact that he couldn't beat Ohio State in college and like throw it in the pros like they're the same game, and I hate that shit. Okay, they're not the same game. Harbaugh was a master at the NFL game.
Remember when he took the 2-14 49ers to
the NFC Championship game?
Like what, 3 times? 2 times?
Yeah, no, three in a row, and a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that he almost won.
Right before him, they were 2-14. As soon as he leaves, they're back to garbage. You tell me what the missing ingredient was there.
He made Kaepernick a winner. Once he left, Kaepernick sucked. There's a lot of things that Harbaugh is able to do. So the fact that Lions fans don't want him there is blasphemous, to be honest with me.
It doesn't make sense. I think he was a good NFL. I don't agree that he's a college coach, but that's not what we're talking about here. Okay.
So Jordan Fox wanted our thoughts on this article here about Phillip Rivers. Has considered Week 17 might be his final game. I think it's time. Rivers hasn't played horrible football this year, but you can tell he doesn't have it. It's not going to get any better. I think he's better off to ride off in the sunset before you completely fall off the wheels. There are certain guys who can continue to play and fall off and nobody cares, like Peyton Manning. You know, he fell off. Nobody gives a shit about his last year. Plus, he still won a Super Bowl, so that kind of helps. But like, the Colts are just as good with Brissett as they are with Rivers. So like, I don't see the need for the Colts to want to bring him back, and I don't see anybody else wanting to give him a contract anyway. So it would be best if he just retired on his own before not being able to get a job and being kind of forced out. It's a better look that way. I just think it's time. He doesn't have the arm he used to have anymore. And he already threw a lot of picks before that, so now when you can't get the ball to where you need to go, I just think it's the end of the Phillip Rivers era now. So.
Right. So when you think about that draft class, you have Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, and Big Ben. Eli realized that he had lost his job and he didn't have it anymore. He retired last year. Big Ben looks like he's just about done too. And Phillip Rivers, if you have to throw your whole body into the football to go 15 yards now, you just
watch him.
You don't have like I got all the respect for Phillip Rivers because the guy might be a trash talker, but that guy
was a good quarterback.
That guy puts it all out on the field. He doesn't give a shit about interceptions. He'll do whatever he needs to do to make the team win, and he's very, very emotional about it. And I have all the respect in the world for Phillip Rivers. But at some point, the ride has to end. And we're seeing it unfold in Indy right now that he's holding that team back. And Frank Reich knows it, but what was he going to do? He had to try to make some kind of move. But with all the rumors going around that Frank Reich wants to reunite with his boy, my beloved Carson Wentz, that could really put the nail in the coffin of Phillip Rivers, because I know that Carson Wentz struggled this year, and he really hasn't struggled besides his rookie year. When Frank Reich was in Philadelphia, Carson Wentz looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And so that was when Frank Reich was really making the calls on offense. And I think that is the kind of system that Carson Wentz would need. If Carson Wentz went to the Colts, Phillip Rivers' time there is absolutely done. And I think his time in the NFL should be done, and I think Big Ben's probably should be done as well, because he's really holding the Steelers back too. But
yeah, Big Ben's good for about 3/4 of the year. Then he's clearly he can't go through a full season.
No.
He's his arms like noodly now.
Yeah, he just you've seen it with the Steelers games. They don't look good on offense because they have no passing attack. Big Ben's the fastest quarterback to throw the ball, which means he's relying on 2 to 3 yard passes. You can't have success against quality opponents playing like that, because once they just start blitzing you, it's over.
They also lead the league in drop passes, so it's not 100% on Big Ben, but
Right.
but he's not helping anything.
No.
What was I gonna say now? Yeah, I just think it's over. I lost my train of thought, so I'm just gonna say that's the end of it. So
Yeah.
All right, now we got to get to our picks.
So this is week 17. Coop has a 1-pick lead over me. We are going to continue into the playoffs because it is a close race. It's not wrapped up like last season's was. Are we going all the way until the Super Bowl?
We're cutting it off before the Super Bowl. Our last podcast, so we're not going to pick the Super Bowl for our bet. We'll pick it on the air just so people know our pick, but our bet's going to end after the AFC NFC Championship games.
And if there are any new viewers in here, there's a lot on the line with these picks. Let me break it down for you. The winner gets $100 from the loser, as well as the loser has to do the final podcast eating the world's hottest chip.
The Packy One Chip Challenge.
And then has to go the entire podcast without any kind of relief. So this is very important for whoever wins to win and not to lose, because it will be very painful. So with that being said, let's roll on to our picks.
All right, I'll start out. Miami at Buffalo. This was mainly the game why we pushed the podcast back to Saturday, and it didn't help us at all because we got no new information about it. So I'm going to just go ahead and assume Buffalo's playing their starters, because if they weren't, it probably would have been announced by now. It's Saturday night. So since Buffalo's playing their starters and their famous closer, Ryan Fitzpatrick, will not be playing in this game,
He's got COVID.
I'm taking Buffalo in this game, thus bringing me back to the Phillip Rivers conversation. Won't be Phillip Rivers' last game, week 17, because of this loss.
Mm-hmm.
I got Buffalo over Miami. They're the better team. Tua cannot keep up with that offense. It's in Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going Buffalo as well. As much as Tua has really done a lot to turn that Miami team around, it's not going to be enough to get them into the playoffs in his rookie year. Buffalo is just the hottest team in football. They're hosting the Dolphins. It's not a good look for them. Josh Allen is going to continue his route, and he's just going to take down the Dolphins. So, Green Bay travels to Chicago, and I have Green Bay.
Very important game.
I have Green Bay ending the Chicago Bears' playoff hopes. Green Bay just knows how to handle Chicago, and they are playing for the bye week. So, Aaron Rodgers is going to go out there, light them up. Green Bay wins this one.
Yep. Sorry, Bears fans. Tyler Schmidt, who accuses.
We don't hate the Bears. It's just they're not.
Well, I mean, I hate the Bears, but
I don't hate the Bears. They're just earlier in the year they couldn't score. They were bad. They finally started to pick it up, and I have picked the Bears a few times, but when we don't pick the Bears, it doesn't mean that we don't like the Bears or we're picking them to lose every time. It's just how the games shape out.
we both picked the Bears last week.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I got Green Bay winning this game. I'm sorry, Bears fans. I know your offenses look better, but you haven't played anybody. You're not going to score with Rodgers. Packers just beat the shit out of you every time they play you. The Packers are not going to want to not play at Lambeau throughout the playoffs. That's their huge advantage because they're used to the cold, and some of these other teams are not. So they're 100% going to slap the shit out of you in this game. So I got Green Bay on the road in Chicago, ending Chicago's season. Baltimore at Cincy. Cincy's cost Baltimore playoff games in week 16 or week 17 before. I do not see it continuing today. I just don't think the Bengals have enough to beat the Ravens. I don't think the Ravens are obviously not the team they were last year, but I do think that they're good enough to go into Cincinnati and beat a backup QB and a bunch of scrubs in Cincinnati on this night. So I'm going to take Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm going with Baltimore as well. I know that Cincinnati's really been playing some pretty decent football against some bad teams past couple of weeks, but the Ravens have really picked up the pace. They're fighting for an actual playoff spot. I have Baltimore winning this one. And then, so you have Pittsburgh traveling to Cleveland. Pittsburgh, by the way, is not playing their starters, in case nobody was aware of that, which I don't agree with it, because I know that I don't understand Mike Tomlin.
He's a good coach, but
I don't understand why you would play your backups when you're already going to the playoffs. I get that, and you're not gonna have the bye week. But by playing your backups, you're gonna probably allow
your division rival,
the division rival that has given you fits, to get into the playoffs where you might have to see him again. So I have the Browns winning this game and getting into the playoffs. And it's going to be the Steelers' fault because Mason Rudolph is terrible. And, yeah, I have the Browns.
Okay, so, Tomlin, I've always backed you up as being a good coach. I just can't agree with your decision here. I want you to do me a favor here, okay? Cleveland, I know you routed them once. They're not the same team they were that week. You know that. You never want to see a division rival 3 times. Okay? You could push them out, put Indy in, who you just beat last week. Put them in instead of your division rival. And you're like, nah, I'm going to play my backup so our division rival can come kick our ass on Wild Card weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Pittsburgh's probably going to get the 3 seed. Cleveland may get the 6 seed, and they may have to play Cleveland again next week and get their ass kicked. Because if they play them, I'm picking Cleveland. Because this type of shit burns teams.
Yeah.
Okay? This is a giant-ass mistake, and I'm telling you that's why Buffalo's not sitting their starters. Because they don't want Miami in the playoffs. That's why. Because they're playing it smart. Chicago did it to Minnesota 2 years ago. When Chicago had nothing, they had it locked up. They weren't moving up or down, no matter a loss or not. They played their starters to keep Minnesota out of the playoffs.
Because they didn't want to face them.
Right. You don't want to do that. So they played it all out to keep Minnesota out, and they did. That's what they did. They did their job, and then they ended up losing to the team that got in because of Minnesota. But either way,
Big Ben must be very beat up.
It's got to be that. There's no way you would sit him in trouble when you have to chance to keep your division rival out.
He probably can't throw the ball 10 yards right now. He's like, Coach, I need a week.
The only way I would agree with sitting your starters here is if you had the bye locked up and you were not literally there was nothing.
Or even play the first half, and if you're up, pull your starters out.
Right.
And then get them a little bit extra rest there. But I don't agree with this decision. It's going to end up biting the Steelers. The Steelers are going to end up getting knocked out.
Yep. Okay, Minnesota and Detroit. I'm not going to talk about this game a lot because this game means nothing. I'm taking Minnesota.
I'm taking the Vikings as well. Just the better of 2 teams that aren't making it in. Jacksonville's going to Indy. I know Jacksonville upset Indy in week 1, but Indy is fighting for their playoff hopes. I have Indy beating Jacksonville pretty convincingly.
Word, yeah, I got the same. This is not the same Indy team that was them trying to gel together as a team for the first time in week 1.
And probably thinking how bad Jacksonville was.
And probably overrating. But once you've already lost to a team, you're not going to overrate them again. Yep. I know, even if they've lost 14 straight games. So I'm taking Indy here, and they punched because of Miami's loss. Indy clinches a playoff spot with their victory over Jacksonville. So, Chargers at KC. I'm not going to talk. This game means nothing either. I'm not talking about a lot. KC's not playing their starters. Chargers win this game.
Yeah, I have the Chargers as well. Herbert is going to outperform Chad Henne,
Ooh.
and Jackson or the Chargers are going to win a meaningless game. It's just what it is. The Jets are traveling to Foxborough,
Nothing.
and I have the Jets winning this game. So here's why. Adam Gase is all but fired. The reports came out today that tomorrow will be his final game. So you have the same pick. So you have a lot of guys on the Jets that know a new regime is coming in. So I think that they are going to play hard because they're trying to keep an NFL job. And so you have a team that's going to play hard. They're on a little bit of a streak. They've won 2 in a row. And then you have Cam Newton, who Cam Newton needed Joe Flacco to Joe Flacco himself to beat the Jets the first time. The Jets were winning in that game, and they probably should have won that game, but Joe Flacco messed that game up. You won't see the same thing out of Darnold. I have the Jets winning.
Yeah, I got the Jets. Dallas and the Giants. This is a very important game for Dallas and the Giants, and the winner of this game, as long as if Washington loses, will make the playoffs. I don't think the Giants' offense can score with the way that Dallas's offense has looked the last month. So I just think this battle of 2 teams, one team's offense is better than the other ones, and I think that's going to be the deciding factor. So I got Dallas taking out the Giants in Week 17.
I have Dallas as well. Dallas at least looks capable on offense where the Giants don't. Neither one really does very good on defense. This should be a pretty high-scoring affair. But Dallas looks like it could be the most deadly team out of the NFC least that's capable of going. Just because they have such an offensive star power. I don't think they'll have a problem putting away the Giants. However, the last time they faced, it came down to the wire, but that was also Dak led the charge for most of that game. I think that Dallas puts them away. The Falcons travel down to Tampa Bay, where they almost beat Tampa Bay a couple weeks ago, but they Falcon themselves.
The fucking leads that they blow.
I don't think that they'll get the lead in this game. I have Tampa Bay winning. Atlanta just finds ways to lose, and so I got Buccaneers.
Yeah, I got Tampa too. That's defense. I know.
Jinx.
I just think they're the better team. I don't have a lot to say about this game. I think they're the better team. Atlanta just can't win. So, Tampa. New Orleans at Carolina. The game got a lot more interesting now that New Orleans has 0 running backs left. So, they'll have kick returner Ty Montgomery and tight end Taysom Hill doing the carrying in the backfield. Honestly, could be in worse shape than that. There are other teams that would be in a lot worse shape because at least Ty Montgomery's been a running back before and gotten a lot of carries in Green Bay. But the main thing is you got Drew Brees, and I think that alone is enough to beat Carolina. Carolina has a lot of fight. I think they got a lot of heart in that team, but they just don't have the developed talent yet. I think they're on their way and they're on the right track, but just not yet. I don't think they're going to beat a New Orleans team who is clinging on to a chance to get that number 1 seed, and they're gonna win because they want it. So here's our first different, huh?
I'm going Panthers.
Ooh, taking Teddy B here. No CMC, you know that, right?
No CMC. Don't need him. The Panthers have played their hearts out the entire season. They've lost to some bad teams. They've beaten some good teams. The no running back situation is going to be tough on New Orleans because that really makes you a one-dimensional team. And you could see a lot of Taysom Hill in at quarterback too, just to kind of spice it up so you don't know if he's going to run or if he's going to pass. But I have to assume it's going to be a majority of Drew Brees. And Drew Brees is going to be looking for slant boy. Slant boy, slant boy, slant boy. Because his other big-name target has a little bit of a cough and is sitting out this week. However, Kamara, his other
Yeah, but you said he's gonna be looking for Slant Boy.
Yeah, he's gonna be. Is Slant Boy not playing?
He's on IR.
I did not realize that. I'm
He was
pulling
out
a
for the
Neil.
season.
Sorry, Neil. All right. So
that's why I was looking at you like.
I thought you were talking about like who his other weapon.
No,
So
I
Drew
knew
Brees
you-
is throwing to what fucking Troquan Smith.
Traquan Smith
Um,
and Emmanuel Sanders.
yeah, so not great. I know that the Panthers' defense has been suspect, but they've been pretty decent. Rasul Douglas has performed very well in Carolina, considering how bad he was in Philadelphia. I think that's a really good matchup. The Panthers have done a really good job at like staying with teams throughout the season, and they just need a lucky break, and they could really pull that upset out. And I know that the team isn't really playing for anything right now, but you just love to upset division opponents. So I have Carolina winning this game.
I just lost my goddamn schedule.
The next game that we have is Tennessee traveling to Houston. I believe this game is Tennessee wins and they're in as the
Yes.
the AFC South, where Houston really isn't playing for anything. They just lost to Cincinnati. They're probably just looking to get the season over with, start of the offseason. Tennessee should win this game really convincingly. And I have Derrick Henry hitting his 223 rushing yards to hit the 2,000-yard game.
What?
What?
No way.
You don't have him getting
No
230
way.
yards?
He rushes for 103 yards.
No.
Yeah. So, I almost picked Houston in this game. I was this close to picking Houston, but I didn't. I took Tennessee. I think Tennessee's gonna win, just barely win this game. But I think it'll be on the arm of Ryan Fitzpatrick, not on the legs of Derrick Henry.
So you think that Henry will have 103, but that Sajay Perine, he had over 100 yards against that Houston team last week.
That's different because they weren't trying to stop Perine. Nobody's scared of Perine, right?
But
They're gonna throw everybody in the box trying to stop Derrick Henry because they know if they beat Tennessee, they have a chance to knock out their. These are the type of things they love to play spoiler. They want to knock out their division rival.
I think these guys are defeated and they just want to go home.
Oh, not after J.J. Watt's speech last week.
I think JJ is defeated.
JJ's defeated for sure, but that might have motivated the rest of the team.
So we both
I think Tennessee wins 14-13 in this game. Tannehill throws 2 TD passes. Henry gets 103 yards on 30 carries, so he pretty much gets shut down.
Oh my god.
Gonna be an ugly game. Vegas at Denver. I'm not gonna talk too much about this game. Vegas. I'm gonna take Vegas because Denver is just so beat up.
Yeah. How the mighty have fallen. Vegas looked so promising. Not gonna be the case.
I think they did everything right last week. I just think that their defense just fucked up.
I feel I disagree with that. I know that statistically it makes sense to take that knee, but I would have at least ran because even if you don't make it in, you can call the timeout, and you at least give yourself a chance to not get completely screwed by the by the football gods, because that was just karma coming down on them the way that Fitzmagic pulled that one out. But no, the Raiders ain't it, but they are it this week. Denver's just not good. So then you got Arizona fighting for their playoff lives against LA. I have Arizona winning because Kyler Murray is more of a threat than what Blake Bortles is.
Yeah,
So I have Arizona. This is the worst time for Jared Goff to get hurt. Jared Goff isn't really a great quarterback anyway, but he's better than Bortles. Arizona wins this game.
Yeah, I had Arizona too, to be real with you. I didn't even know Jared Goff was hurt until they announced he had surgery. I didn't hear or read anything about it until the surgery was done.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what the hell? That was crazy. I can't believe it. I don't think Jared Goff's a great quarterback, but I do think he does a real good job managing that offense. And Blake Bortles doesn't do a good job managing anything. So this is just the blow they didn't need right now. The Rams didn't. It's going to allow their division rival to get into the playoffs and potentially. I don't think the Rams even locked in.
No.
No, there's a potential small chance that it could knock the Rams out of the playoffs. I don't think that'll happen, but the Cardinals are going to win this game though. So it's just an awful time for you to lose your quarterback.
Yeah.
So, Seattle at San Francisco. Seattle playing for that number 1 seed. San Francisco I feel so bad for this team. They got so many people hurt. I just don't think that they're going to do enough to be able to beat a Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson led team that need to win.
Yep.
So I got Seattle on the road.
I've got the same one. Seattle is going to take care of San Francisco. I don't think it's enough to get the number 1, but they're at least going to be playing for that it's meaningful like that.
Yeah, and the NFL purposely scheduled all those games at the same time so they wouldn't know who had the number 1. Smart by the NFL to make more competitive games.
They flexed the Green Bay one to make that happen.
Yep.
Final game, Washington football team travels to Philadelphia, and I'm going with the Washington football team to win. So, being the biggest Eagles fan probably in the state of Michigan, that's really hard for me to say. But when you look at who the Eagles have benched for this game, it'd be very hard to agree that they would pull this one out. Without Miles Sanders, without Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, I think Jalen Reagor is sitting out. You don't know who's going to line up at offensive line. Fletcher Cox is taking the day off. There's a laundry list. If you look at their injury report, it's almost 2 pages long. The Eagles know that if they lose, they can potentially pick all the way as early as 3. So they know that it's more important for them to just kind of get the season over with, get healthy, and look to see who the next member of the Eagles is come draft time. I have the Washington football team winning and winning the division.
Taking the upset here. I'm taking Philly. I don't have any faith in Washington being able to win a win-and-get-in game. These are just the type of games that teams like that lose, and the only reason that Dallas or the Giants are going to win a win-and-get-in game is because they play each other. So one of them's got to win. So I just have no faith in bad teams being able to win in these type of situations. That's literally why I'm picking the Eagles, because the Eagles have no pressure on them to win this game, win or lose. And those teams are always the most dangerous and play well in those type of situations when you have no pressure. The Eagles' season's over. But they would get a little bit of thrill in knowing that they knocked Washington out. They were the team that knocked out their division rival. And teams like to do that type of stuff. It doesn't matter that they helped another division rival get in. They just know that their victory kept one out.
I think that they'd rather have Washington in over Dallas. Dallas is like the most hated.
I get it, but I feel like as a team and a player, knowing that your win cost somebody their playoff thing, that's why a lot of players have said teams like to play spoilers.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that you were the team that was like, screw you, you have to go home now just like us. So I do feel like players thrive in that. And yeah, Brent's probably right. If Dallas wins against the Giants, they probably would rather Washington get in than Dallas. But it's just a competitive type thing to me. And yeah, they are setting a lot of people, but let's not act like Washington's roster is something to write home about. How healthy is Alex Smith? We don't know that either.
That backup that they had, actually, he played pretty damn good.
He did for his one game. I still don't think he's as good as a healthy Alex Smith.
No,
but,
not at all.
Is Alex Smith healthy, though? We're going to find out early in that game. When he takes his first hit, we'll find out.
I don't know how many hits he's going to take without Fletcher Cox in that.
I don't disagree with you. But I think it'll be a sloppy game, but I'm taking Philly in the upset. This could bode well for you. Your team could help you gain a pick on me by you not picking them.
I also picked the Panthers, so it could equal or it could zero out.
That's true. You did take that puzzling one. But, all right, guys. Thank you for watching us. We appreciate the support, and we'll see you for the playoffs.